Ruben, thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be with you.
Well, I'd like to start with the most recent headline, which has been a top story this week. Nancy Pelosi made an unannounced visit to Taiwan on Tuesday, making her very first visit to do so in 25 years. So this visit comes amid growing tensions between China and the U.S. over the future of Taiwan as a self-ruling democracy that China claims as its own territory. So what message do you think the U.S. wanted to send to China with this unofficial visit?
Yeah, Marcel, the message is clear from Speaker Pelosi, which is that America stands with democracies and America stands for human rights abroad. And for her, this is very personal. Speaker Pelosi has been a leader on promoting democracy and human rights for decades. She went to Tiananmen Square 3 decades ago after the Chinese Communist Party had slaughtered thousands there, and she unfurled a banner calling for human rights in China. So for her, this is a legacy issue as much as an issue to try to make sure that the Chinese understand that we are watching and that we are not going to support any moves against Taiwan and its democracy by China.
Yeah, strong move there. Headed on to our next story, the ongoing war in Ukraine. Right now, the Pentagon says they're sending more weapons and equipment worth up to $550 million to the country. Well, that brings the total amount of military assistance to Ukraine to $8.7 billion at a time when more than 10 million refugees have now fled the country. So with all this help, how fair do you think Ukraine is doing 5 months into this invasion?
It's a very difficult war of attrition right now between Ukraine and Russia. And we've been talking about this now for months and understanding that Russia is throwing as many assets as it can at this war because it can't afford to lose from Vladimir Putin's perspective. But what that means is nearly 20,000 Russians have been killed. They've captured territory in the east. It looks like they want to annex that territory, and that won't be recognized internationally. But the Ukrainian people are proud, and they're standing up to it. And these kinds of support networks, the political support, of course, this military aid that you're describing, which is crucial, the humanitarian aid, that is going to ensure that Ukraine continues its fight. But unfortunately, Russia does not seem to be backing down, which means that we're going to have a continued slog for months on end and a lot of human suffering as a result.
Okay, and that heads to our next point that also was a huge talker this week. It's the first Ukrainian grain ship left the port of Odessa under a deal between Ukraine and Russia and Turkey to help ease a growing hunger crisis. So this is after 22 million tons of grain and other goods have been stuck in that port for some time now. So is this a start to a major relief or just the tip of the iceberg?
Well, we sure hope that this demonstrates that Russia can listen to those around the world who are pleading for it to take steps that help the global economy and help alleviate world hunger, because what they've done with this war is they've shut down one of the top 5 wheat producers in the world, and that's Ukraine. And so Turkey got involved, as you described. Many countries in the Middle East, Lebanon, Egypt, are teetering politically because of this. Their populations are suffering. So this is a good sign. Of course, Russia did, the day after cutting this deal, bomb Odessa, the port city near from where these goods are being shipped. So trust is low, but if these shipments do continue, at least that will demonstrate that there may be a way forward in discussions on humanitarian issues, as both sides do recognize that right now the war is going to be ongoing for a long time.
Yeah, okay, so fingers crossed is a step in the right direction. Let's get to our very last story, Joel. On Monday, President Biden announced a counterterrorism that successfully killed a top al-Qaida leader. So he was described as being Osama bin Laden's number 2, his right-hand man. So break down the significance of taking him down more than 20 years after the September 11th attacks.
This man has blood on his hands by the thousands of American deaths. I was serving in the U.S. government during 9/11. I've been watching this for over 2 decades. To see him taken out as he was, and in a manner that didn't cost any other lives, just his, that was a demonstration that the president is very clear on what he has to do. This man, Ayman al-Zawahiri, was the leader of al-Qaida. He was the emir. He was the glue connecting all the dots in al-Qaeda's international network. By taking him out, Americans are safer today. It's also going to create a vacuum of leadership in al-Qaeda, which is a good thing for us and for our security. This is a demonstration, again, that the terrorist threat while receding from our headlines and we talk about Russia and many other issues, it's still out there. It still exists.
Yeah.
And thankfully, our people in the field were watching him and took care of business.
Okay, a good breakdown at what's taking place right now in American politics. Joel, thank you so much for your time and this perspective. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.